Okay. So, good morning, and good evening to people in India. Welcome to this episode of Fashion Forward, the podcast that goes deep into the trends and technologies that are that we are seeing in the world of fashion, especially the fashion retail and fashion e-commerce. So, in today's podcast, what we'll explore is how is technology and approaches like AI, personalization, and sustainability are transforming the US fashion market? Because we have seen certain changes happen in the US fashion market over the last, let's say, about 36 months. And what we'll explore today is how they have impacted the larger market, which of these are sustainable, what are the technology and business imperatives that are driving these trends. And to discuss that, I have two experts today. I have DJ, who's the co founder and CEO of Iksula. He has spent 20 years in e-commerce, and I'll let him talk a little more about his journey and how he sees the US fashion industry. And my second guest is Abhishek. He is again from Iksula, and he drives the overall innovation charter for the Iksula. And in his role, he works very closely with the US fashion industry as well. So let me ask DJ to give a quick introduction of himself, his background, and what does he see in the US fashion industry. DJ, over to you.
Thanks, Anurag. So I'll just give a quick introduction about myself. So around 20 years of experience, and I started working in retail, but in consumer durable retail, and then was there for like 4 years. So I've done the sales, hardcore sales role there,
Hmm.
and post that I moved to eBay. That was around 2000. 23, 24, 25 kind of, right? So it's been almost like 18, 19 years
Uh-huh.
in the e-commerce industry. Like very early, I started working in e-commerce at a very early stage, right? And post that in Future Group. And then after that, summer we started Iksula. And I think we have been running this since the last 15, 16 years, right? So uh, seen e-commerce grow from the very nascent, basically when Amazon didn't even start a marketplace, right? And eBay was the marketplace, right? So I've
Right.
been around since then. So I feel really old now. And some of the things that we see today, right? It is unbelievable as to when technology has progressed and things that we can do today. We just couldn't think about basically things,
Hmm.
this kind of things. We could have done something like that in the past, right? So technology has really progressed. I think coming to your question on what kind of things I see in the fashion industry, right? And it's a
Hmm.
very fascinating industry, fashion, because unlike other industries, right, where trends don't change every season, right? Fashion trends change every season.
Hmm.
There's a winter season, there's an autumn season, there's a summer season, spring, whatever, spring, summer season, and all, right? So every season, the inventory has to necessarily go through a refresh, right? So which means basically for every season you need to design, you need to create fresh designs, right? And then fresh production cycles, fresh inventory cycles. The store has to be changed to the new designs that are coming to the store, right? So visual merchandising in the store changes, right? There's a lot of change which goes on every season, right? So by default, fashion is an industry where trends change every season, and accordingly,
Hmm.
businesses like go through some kind of a mini disruption every like season, right? So this industry is used to seeing basically changes every season, right? So having said that, I think some of the bigger business trends that we are seeing, right, which I see based on our conversations with a lot of clients, right? So we do
Hmm.
have a lot of fashion clients, right? I think the first trend in which seems to be the most talked about nowadays is the rise of fast fashion, right? So we had
Hmm.
fast fashion like 1.0, which is Zara, the likes of Zara coming in and really disrupting the fashion industry, right? So but I think now it has been turbocharged, right? So today we have
Hmm.
the likes of Temu and we have Shein, right? These are two new names which have arose in the last 3 4 years, right? They are really shaking at the fast fashion industry. uh, they use a lot of data, social media marketing, innovation in production, right? Their cycle times today from designing to basically inventory on the floor is like 21 days, right? You just can't imagine, right? So other typical retail players and brands work with design to production to floor cycles of around like 6 to 9 months, 6 to 7, 8 months, right? Theirs is a 21 days cycle, which is like which gives them a lot of competitiveness in the
Hmm.
market. The second trend which I see is hyper personalizing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the way I think about hyper personalizing, right? So I'm a little on the older side, right? So on the just started my 50s, right? So when we used to be young, right? So when you go to, you didn't have like a lot of ready-made garments then, right? So the way you used to get clothes done is, right, you go to a tailor, right? So
Right. Right.
real a person basically who takes your measurements, and so there's
Mm-hmm.
something called a tailor, right? Maybe millennials and Gen Z they might not even have encountered or seen anyone like a tailor, right? So there's something called a tailor. He's a person, right, who
Uh-huh.
takes a measurement, and based on your specific measurements and taste and style preference and also, right, he makes a very custom dress to you and dress for you. That's how the experience used to be. And because you go to the same tailor again and again, right? He knows your taste. He has your
Right.
measurements, right? So when you turn up at his shop, right, he knows exactly, Anurag is coming and he's a guy who likes slightly younger, whatever taste and all, right? This experience is just not possible in the ready-made world, right? And of course, in e-commerce also, it's very difficult to make this experience happen. The set of people who still deliver that kind of an experience are the luxury fashion guys, right? So if you
Mm-hmm.
go to Gucci's or Louis Vuitton's kind of, right, they're still able to give that experience because you know what, it's a luxury brand, right? You still have the designers, you have the tailors. You go there, they know your custom taste, right? They would have a diary basically where they would have noted down what kind of stuff you like, what kind of your measurements and so on and so forth, right? Of course, because there are like humans involved in this entire process, right? It does become expensive because the tailor has to finally make something which is very custom. So they are still able to do it, but other people are not able to do it. But today, with the availability of a bunch of tech, and I think we can speak about it later, right? So that level of personalization can be done in today's world, right? Even through e-commerce. Trend three is omnichannel.
Mm-hmm.
Omnichannel earlier used to be just enabling buying across any channel, right? So today, I think omnichannel has gone beyond that, in which you're trying to give the same experience for a customer across all the different channels that you could be interacting in,
Mm-hmm.
right? And beyond the experience, it also that the history of the customer in terms of what he has bought, what are the challenges he had, any
Mm-hmm.
customer issues, right? That piece of information is available across all the channels, right? So his browsing habits, his trials, shopping, what did this shop in the
Mm-hmm.
past. This set of information is available across all channels, right? Which also gives the uh, brands and retailers the ability to give a very custom experience. The fourth trend is basically customers are increasingly becoming more and more environmentally
Mm-hmm.
conscious. Easy concept to understand. Let me not talk about it.
Got it. Got it. So we are looking at four very significant trends. We are talking about the rise of fast fashion. We're talking about hyper personalization. We're talking about omni-channel, and then the sustainability angle. And I think if I were to guess, brands and retailers would be struggling to balance out these four. But what are the factors that have enabled the rise of these trends? I mean, what was the origin factor? What was the sequence of events which led to the rise of these? DJ, would you throw some light on that as well?
Okay, let me just touch on it briefly.
Mm,
The key underlying technologies which are enabling the above trends, right? The trends
mm,
that four trends that we spoke about, right? Are AI, data, insights, metaverse, AR, hyper personalization, tech
mm.
stacks, right? So technology is accelerating and it is made available due to the acceleration in technology, data,
Mm,
AI. It's made available a couple of tools, right? Like PIM technologies, DAM technologies,
mm,
CD technologies, right? Which allow you to do all these levels of achieve this level of personalization, achieve that level of design to production short cycles, right? So technology is primarily driving that, right? And this trend is only likely to go up. Right? We read a McKinsey report which say that
mm,
typically, a fashion company would invest right 1.6 to 1.8% of the revenues in technology, right?
mm.
And this is the current state, and that is likely to go up to 3 to 3.5%, which is doubling by 2030 in another 6 7 years time. Right? So therefore, the innovation pace is only likely to expedite.
Got it. So, how does AI play? And AJ, I'm gonna throw this question to you. how does AI play into this entire evolving landscape? I mean, we've spoken in the past in one of the earlier episodes about some use cases of AI. So, would you want to add to that and tell us where do you see artificial intelligence, both the traditional AI and the Gen AI applications coming in, transforming this landscape, and how will they enable brands to do it?
Thanks, Anurag. I think DJ already covered a lot of trends, right, which are kind of dominating in the US fashion market, right, from fast
Mhm.
fashion to hyper personalization to analytics, right, being coming in, right. So uh, in this entire value chain, when you look at fashion, right, from creative design to sourcing, right, to
Mhm.
even material selection, right, to planning, right, and then finally at the forefront of customer engagement, right, returns, right, the entire value chain there, AI has essentially come in all the parts of value chain, right. So if
Mhm.
I were to give a couple of examples, so let's say from design and trend perspective, right? So there are players like, as DJ mentioned, right? Shane, Temu, etc., right? They are leveraging a lot of data, a lot of trends to kind of predict, okay, what the consumer preferences, right? They are
Mhm.
leveraging AI to and they are giving preferences like styles, etc., to generate new set of design, right? So in creating new designs, creating trend prediction, AI essentially is one of the important lever there, right? Secondly, when you to material selection, so with AI, the brands and retailers now are predicting essentially that which sort of material would be really good for to follow that trend, right? Whether that material is in line with one of the trend that DJ mentioned is sustainability, right? Whether that's environment friendly or
Mhm.
not, right? So that's second, right? Third is around the usual use case around inventory and demand forecasting, right? What we have typically seen working with fashion retailers is specifically when DJ was mentioning about churn cycle, inventory cycle, right? That's where the prediction becomes really really key, right? So that
Mhm.
you don't have to sell the inventory at discount, right? So that's where AI is helping using historic data, market trend to predict the inventory and demands across multiple channels, whether it could be social, it could be retail, it could be
Mhm.
stores. And then finally, at the personalization level, right, we collect a lot of customer data, right, whether it is around first party data, around behavior, right, and then this AI essentially helps personalize as per individual customer behavior. We'll obviously talk that later, right, and then moving at the customer experience, which is
Mhm.
using chatbots, using virtual assistant, right, uh,
Mhm.
driving understanding more about customers, right, and then AI essentially is helping with the chatbots, voice bot, coming in, yeah, essentially helping in, customer experience management also. So it's basically at all fronts in the entire value chain of retail, from customer engagement to design and creativity, product content experience, right? Process automation. AI is there in the entire value chain of fashion.
God. And what about the good old data analytics? I mean, see, I got into retail analytics for the fashion industry. It was for Marks and Spencer 20 years ago, where we are trying to predict in-store trends and what is happening, and could you do inventory, could you do sales prediction at that point of time? So now, is it still relevant? Do Can customers still see ROI coming out of that? Your traditional analytics?
So, Anurag, honestly, if you look at AI, what we spoke around AI, right? So, data is the foundation for AI, right?
Mhm.
So, data is something that fuels AI, right? So, and obviously, when data is there, analytics would always be at the forefront, right? So, now, retailers and brand are powering more and more data and using a combination of AI and analytics to,
Mhm.
essentially play a role in the entire value chain, right? To again give couple of example, very simple example, as we said around trends, right, which is around design and trend production, right? So retailers like Shein, Temu, they are essentially collecting a lot of data from social preferences, social
Mhm.
media. They're collecting a lot of data data from customer reviews, customer trends, right? And then basis that they are predicting, okay, this is the design, or this is the color, or this is the pattern that they need to launch in the market, right? Once they launch that pattern, then they are again taking customer feedback to have more repeat cycle for that pattern or that trend, right? So again, data is at the core, right? Similarly, if you look at the personalization angle, right,
Mm.
customer come to the multiple channels, right? Whether it is social, whether it is web, whether it is at the stores, right? The customers are giving a lot of data, right? Now it's up to the retailers to leverage that and personalize based on behavior, etc., right? So for example, a source, right, a retailer based out of US, right? It leverages essentially the clicks, purchases data, to kind of suggest a complementary complementary product which goes with the customer outfit, right? So that's again one of the important trend, right? So
Mhm.
again, as I said, data is something that fuels AI, right?
Mm.
And it is always going to be there, right? And it is going to be the key pillar, driving growth and for fashion retailers.
Got it. Got it. And when we look at personalization again, DJ spoke about hyper personalization, and that was a very relevant example.
Yeah.
So it seems like we've gone from the age of hyper personalization uh, in a very low tech environment to a age of non personalized offerings in a high tech environment, to again the needle is moving back to hyper personalization. So what are you seeing in, and I would look at what are maybe two or three things that are going to be very relevant for fashion retailers and fashion brands in, let's say, the next 12 to 18 months.
Got it. So, Anurag, when we talk about personalization, right? So it's not limited to product recommendation, right? The typical cross sell, upsell that you see on the platforms, right? It's again how you're leveraging customer preferences, right? And then personalizing, as per individual references. If you can present that slide, Anurag,
Oh yeah.
which I have shared, right? I would be able to put that point really across, right? So if you look at this, right, how you know uh, when we say personalization, and when we talk about hyper personalization, it is as per individual, right? So let's say if I am talking about Abhishek, right, how a retailer, a brand is aware about my touch points, or my
Mhm.
interaction with retailer or brand at each channel, right? So if you look at this clearly, right, it is showing what engagement I had with the brand, right?
Mm.
It's capturing my preference, right? It is capturing my location, right? It is capturing my history, right? It is obviously telling what kind of customer I am, right? So
Mm.
these kind of a touch point, these kind of data essentially helps in one view of customer, right? Once you have one view of this customer, right, it's really easy to personalize across the channels, right? Because nowadays, with then the customer, or any customer is expecting a very individualized and personalized behavior across the channel, whether you are at the store, whether you are at the website, right? And somebody was cracked, to give an example, is Nike, right? So if you
Mm.
visit their store, right, they are able to recognize that, okay, this is Abhishek, whose past history is XYZ orders at a particular social channel, right? Even the store associate will greet you that he is aware about your history, right? He will be aware about your preferences, right, and shows you product which yeah, just matches your preferences, right? This all is possible using one view of customer, right?
Mm.
Anurag, if you go to the next slide, what
Sure.
can be done is a very customized a landing page, right?
Mm.
Again, as per buyer history, right, buyer preferences, right? Now I do understand the challenges people would think about, right? In cookieless world, right? How does this happen, right? But you are able to collect a lot of first party data, right, which is around their preferences, what kind of product
Mhm.
they purchase, right, what kind of interaction they had at loyalty channel or social channel, right? And then basis that you can essentially customize landing page. Again, Amazon specifically, when it comes to a personalized landing page, is really doing good job. It churns a lot of data, and you see a different homepage when Anurag visits Amazon versus Abhishek visits Amazon, right? So
Got it.
it's all it's really if I were to just end my
Hmm.
thing, and specifically on technology front, right? Again, there are multiple layers when it comes to personalization,
Hmm.
right? You need to show right content, right product, right price, right promotions to the customer. Price
Hmm.
and promotions are broadly, sorted, right? It's done and dusted, right? But when it comes to content, the PIM and DAM kind of systems are really enabling the personalization across the channel, right?
Hmm.
And the one view of customer, which I spoke, right? The CDP is essentially helping in the customer data platform, or helping in getting that one view of customer, and solving the problem of personalization, right? Obviously, but all of this is, it comes at a cost, right? And there is a lot of operations layer also involved, right? But retailers are really, really cracking it, right? New age retailers, Shein, Temu has really cracked personalization.
Got it. Got it. Okay. I'm going to take the slide off, and I'm going to ask you more around. Let's look at these are some very, very large retailers who are doing it.
Yeah,
Is the tech stack, is the technology that expensive or that out of reach of, let's say, smaller and niche businesses? Because if I look at personalization, businesses which focus on uh, very tailored offering, they would need this tech stack even more, and they may be running on Shopify.
yeah.
So what's your view? I mean, are those businesses still or capable of leveraging technology and drive this hyper personalization?
I know you mentioned the example of Shopify, but I will extend to other technologies also, right? And maybe mention that yes, even with limited resources, right?
Hmm.
Players, are really, really, customizing the experience for customers, right?
Hmm.
So when I say that, so it could be done in multiple ways, right? You could leverage customer interaction, right? So even at Shopify level, right, you are capturing, customer behaviors, you are capturing their history, right? You are capturing, what they have purchased, right? So you have simple personalization like occasion based personalization, right? You are kind of reaching out to them on occasions, right? This is again the simplest personalization, right? You
Right.
are able to track their interest from social media. You reach out to them via chats, right? So that you are giving a preferred attention to the customer, right? So that's where have multiple interaction channel for them, right? And just have understand their behavior, just understand their preferences, and do the personalization, right? Again, this can be done at a very less cost, right, for Shopify kind of play who are leveraging Shopify, or who are at a earlier scale of personalization, earlier stage of personalization, right? Then again, simple things can be done. For example, you understand your customer. Instead
Mhm.
of giving an individual recommendation, you can segment them in cohorts, right? And then simplest thing would be, you create collections for them, right? That okay, this is the collection for one type of cohort, this is the collection for second type of cohort, right? And many players are leveraging this specifically when we work with customers like Naomi in Middle East, right? They are
Hmm.
essentially doing the similar in similar manner, right? From that. And then there are low cost marketing automation tools also, Anurag, right? What
Hmm.
it does is it takes customer data, using some AI, they kind of segment the customer, right? All the emails, all the SMS, right? Even the segmentation across channels, marketing channels like Facebook,
Hmm.
etc., can be achieved through that, right? You can understand, okay, what kind of product customer has bought, right? So these kind of low cost tools are also available, right? But obviously it will not really do an individual personalization, but at a cohort level, people are leveraging personalization, and obviously are seeing the improvement in revenue, etc.
Got it. Got it. Great. So now let's look at, we've spoken about how technology can drive personalization, how the fast fashion is moving. Let's look at sustainability, how sustainable it is. So, DJ, and I'm going to throw this question to you. Where do you see technology playing a greater role and enabling all these businesses to do this, to drive this innovation, but do it in a more sustainable fashion?
So I think AJ was speaking about demand prediction,
Mm.
inventory optimization using data and analytics, right? And AI helping us to do personalization, and all this fast fashion translating to shorter production cycles and so on, right? I think the underlying thing which is happening in this entire thing, right, is that we are able to match demand and supply very closely.
Hmm.
Just the ability to match demand and supply means that you know what lesser inventory is going to be wasted, right? Typically, 30-35% of a season's inventory is generally like discarded, right, or goes in seconds, or finally, basically, it's discarded, right? So this waste don't happen, right? So I think that itself leads to a more sustainable future. But having said that, this other dynamic of fast fashion, where basically especially the younger audience, right? They like to buy fast fashion, cheaper products, right? And fresher styles, always the latest styles, right? So they would typically use one product for like say 6-8 months and throw it off, right? It creates another kind of waste, right? So uh,
Yes, yes.
I think it's. But having said that, generally you would also see that the younger audience is more environmentally aware. They're more aware, generally more sustainability oriented. Right? So
Mm,
maybe somewhere at some point of time, some balance will emerge, right? So of course, this is the consumer taste change, cultures change, right? So we don't know where the balance is going to come. But I
mm.
feel that at some point, some kind of balance is going to be there. But I don't know if it's going to be a more sustainable outcome as compared to today, or it's going to be worse outcome because people are changing their clothes very fast. So,
Yeah, God, absolutely. And I think this is where we are hearing the buzz around circular economy. So Decathlon is someplace I've been following what they have been doing around circular economy, and because they have this very strong network of stores, they are trying to enable their customers to come back, return the older product that they don't want to use, and pick up the new product and create this whole loyalty program. That's a conversation. That's a whole new podcast that we'll have to do, and we will do that. DJ and Abhishek at some point of time. But I'll leave that thought here. Looking at the possibilities, there's obviously the other side, which talks about the challenges. There are going to be technical challenges. There are going to be challenges around financials. But I will start with a very key one. What are the ethical challenges? One, it looks at from a data point of view. I mean, there's a lot of customer data that is being used to drive that personalization. Does it go into the realm of let's say breaching the privacy? How does businesses, or how do businesses deal with GDPR? Abhishek, any thoughts?
So, Anurag, as we spoke around personalization, right, and the use of AI, which leverages a lot of customer data, preferences, etc., right? Obviously, there are concerns around, privacy, right? And we are, retailers or brands are capturing the data around, they're tracking the customer, they're tracking
Hmm.
their preferences, right? Obviously, there is concern, right? So, but uh, uh, GDPR, CCPA, right, are there, right? And every country is now having their own rules around privacy, right? And then obviously, retailers and brands definitely should adhere to data. So they should keep in mind what data they are using, right, around customers, right? What data is collected, how it is collected, and how it is being used, right? So they should be really aware about it, and they should inform the customer that okay, this data is essentially being used for marketing or for your personalization, for your awareness, right? So that's one concern that definitely it has, right? Second concern, if you look from purely people, the fashion retailers are leveraging AI, right? Second concern comes in, is around biases also, right?
Hmm.
You see in AI, right? So that's another concern that's being kicking in, right? Especially because it could happen that some of the demographics, when the AI model is trained, right? Some of the demographics are like overrepresented there, right? And that
Right.
kind of skew the personalization or recommendation, right? Because again, the underlying technology is AI, right? So as retailers, as brand, right, definitely they should train across a balanced set of data, right, so that it doesn't really skew, right? Because then that gives essentially unbiased recommendation, right? So obviously the leader, the CEO, CIOs has to kind of strike a balance between how they are leveraging data, right, customer data, etc., right, and also enabling the customer experience. So that still would always be there.
God. God. And one surprising thing is that neither of you spoke about blockchains. and that it's been a buzzword. We do hear about blockchains being used for a multitude of use cases, in whether it is your supply chain tracking, or whether it is your farm to source in the food world. But I'm sure it could be a useful tool in the circular economy as well. So any thoughts on that? Where do we see blockchain coming in?
Well, you all, everyone talks about blockchains when BTC is always hitting all-time highs. Right? It just happens to be in that stage right now. So there's more buzz around blockchains all over again. But this time, I think not many are talking about use cases really. But I do feel that there are some real use cases for the fashion industry.
Hmm.
I think the first use case is traceability. Right,
Hmm.
traceability is just the ability to trace inventory across the entire value chain. Right. And to also, so which also means that when it comes to the circular economy, right? So proving the originality of any item becomes a very easy thing to do with blockchain, right? I think that's one of the primary use cases. I think sustainability, we have been speaking about sustainability, right? So I think at some point of time, regulatory intervention is definitely going to come in. Just
Hmm.
for data, right? So at some point of time, governments are going to put some rules in place to drive sustainability across industries, right?
Hmm.
So I think, and it's already starting to. We are already starting to see that so uh, government incentivizing companies by green energy credits and all, right? So I think similar kind of philosophy is also going to be adopted for sustainability, right? So I think the biggest use case of blockchains, another
Hmm.
use case of blockchains, is going to be beyond sustainable traceability. It's also going to be able to track the entire history, location, distribution of product parts, materials across the different supply chain, right, including contractors, subcontractors, right? So that itself helps you to optimize the various aspects of supply chain, various aspects of material, and so on and so forth, right? Which is going to lead to another round of basically inventory optimization, right? So specifically around like materials and timelines, turnaround times, and basically uh, different locations and so
Hmm.
on, right? So I think currently it's difficult to do with existing databases, right? So I think blockchains are designed to basically do this kind of work, right? So there is a platform by the name of there's a blockchain by the name of Everledger. It's
Okay.
decently popular, so I wouldn't say that it's the level of Ethereum popular kind of, right, but it is decently popular. This blockchain is already live since a couple of years, right? I think one big name which is trying out something with this blockchain is we all know the name of the designer Steve McQueen, right? So he's
Right.
got a brand by the name of MCQ. So Steve McQueen is trying out basically using this Everledger blockchain for tracking traceability, sustainability, right, to prove originality, and so on and so forth. He's trying to build out the use case, right? So I think that's an interesting example out there. But beyond that, we do not have many examples. And I think
Hmm.
as and when the regulatory pressure comes, right, I think the use of blockchains like Everledger is likely to go up.
Got it. Well, I think we've crossed the 30-minute mark. So, any other thoughts on the fashion industry? And let me give some context on, on what I have my takeaways from this conversation are. One, that fast fashion is here to stay. Hopefully, it is. So, how does it impact the larger established fashion industry? The technologies that are enabling fast fashion and the larger change include AI, analytics, data being put to a lot more use than it has been in the past. And again, availability of the computing power and the cloud computing is enabling that. There is a very strong focus on sustainability. I think the solutions are just evolving. But any other thoughts that you would want when a retailer or when a brand is planning for this? How should they go about using these technologies? Your experience, what has worked, what has not worked? Some guiding lights, some guiding principles. DJ,
Uh,
over to you first and then to Abhishek.
Yeah, Abhishek, if I may. So I think, see, technology is one of those things, right? Like you can put a technology there, but the humans still have to operate on top of the technology. Right?
Right.
Getting people to adopt this new data science tools, analytics tools, and then AIs, right? And how do you operate with AIs on top of it? Right? I think it's generally a challenge across
Hmm.
every organization, right? So it's way more easier to implement technology than for you to get your business teams and basically assorted teams to adopt technology. I think
Hmm.
that itself is one of the bigger challenges that I see.
Hmm.
But beyond that, I think the other big challenge of fashion, right, is that, what, fashion design has always been an art form. Now here we're talking of like predicting trends and using that as a big input to the design process, right? So old school designers, right? It's all touch and fill and like creative process and all, right? Now you're talking like, you gotta, guys, you gotta use data in creative process. I think that's going to be one of the bigger challenges, right? Uh, there's going to be huge resistance from specifically from the design teams, right?
Hmm.
So how? So therefore, basically, maybe with time, what is going to happen is that, right, a new breed of designers is going to emerge who are generally technology savvy, younger, right, and tech is an integral part of their general life, right, and they have seen basically like they have started to play around with tools like Dolly and Chat GPT and whatever, right? And they do understand role that tech can play
Hmm.
in creativity, right? So I think basically with time, brands and retailers do not have any
Hmm.
option to adopt this. Right? I think that's the path that the industry will have to take.
Got it. Got it. Abhishek, any final concluding thoughts?
So I think, as DJ mentioned, right, a new breed of talent would appear, right, who can essentially, leverage technology, right. So designer would emerge who understand AI, who understand trends, who understand data, right. So, but because fashion forecasting is on steroid at this point of time. Sheen and Temu has really revolutionized, right? And the other players are competing with them to leverage as much as prediction, as much as
Mhm.
AI to cope up with demand. So that's definitely one trend, right? And we'll see new breed of designers, etc., would come in, right? Another thing that would be a largest focus for this, and obviously next 3 4 years, is shopping, which is more and more personal for customers, right.
Hmm.
That's where customer data, right, engagement for customers would become more and more important for retailer, obviously leveraging the technology, right. So obviously, so overall AI technology is in the fashion is kind of will lead to more and more innovation, right.
Hmm.
Has already brought a lot of efficiencies, right? In whether it is forecasting or whether it is supply chain, we are seeing a lot of
Hmm.
efficiencies for our customers also in the entire value chain, right? However, there are concerns, as we already discussed, around privacy, around ethics, right? So those are something which would evolve, in the coming days, right?
Got it. Got it. I think this has been a fantastic conversation. My key takeaways again, and I'll summarize it for our audience who's just gonna take the last hear the last 5 minutes of it. I think what I learned was the U.S. fashion industry, in particular, what we spoke about, and probably the larger global fashion industry, is in for a significant transformation. I think driven by the emergence of fast fashion. Probably even the user behavior is changing, given that a very large part of the audience is mobile first and looking at videos. TikTok is a big platform where trends emerge and have to be spotted by these guys. That's definitely creating a massive disruption. We are looking at AI playing a very significant role across the value chain, right from predicting trends to helping in automating the entire fashion value chain. There is a very strong element of sustainability that is going to emerge, and businesses will have to account for that, both to appease their customers as well as to make sense for their bottom line, because the final element would be regulation, both on the data side as well as sustainability. So I think it was a very, very interesting conversation. DJ and Abhishek, thank you so much for your time. Any final words you want to say? And I hope we do this again, maybe probably maybe in about like 6 to 8 weeks. And I would love to hear more updates on what's happening in this industry after that. Any final thoughts, DJ?
So I think I'm traveling to Shop Talk end of this week. Shop
All
Talk is
right.
in Las Vegas, right? So I'm meeting a bunch of like fashion retailers and brands.
Mhm.
And so I, of course, basically, uh, so it's always best to learn from practitioners, right? So, and they're the brands and retailers. So I'm sure basically I'll pick up something more interesting than what we have discussed, right? So some of the latest things that they are working on, right? So happy to share basically insights when I'm back.
Definitely, DJ. So let's put some time in the calendars for
Sure,
about 2, maybe 3 weeks from now, and we'll reconvene and have this conversation again.
sure, sure.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking time out on a Wednesday evening. Have a great rest of the week, and DJ, have a great trip to Shop Talk, and have a good time there. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Anwar,
you.
for hosting
Thank
us.
you,
Thank
Anand.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you,
Thank
buddy.
you. Bye bye.
Okay.